everyone, welcome to part two of our final project for the class Transformative Communication. And in the first part, we would have done a presentation which was aimed at for persons of low income persons in the community. But for this part two of the presentation, we're looking at policymakers and stakeholders. And for the communication theory, we're using the central root and the peripheral root. And so you will notice the difference between both presentations. And you will notice for this, there's a lot more information that's going to be given, but we're still using the central root, the peripheral root, to appeal to their emotions to get persons to actually elicit change. So enjoy. So first thing first, we're going to begin with what are some of the factors that influence food choices. And this is pretty much known that there's several reasons why we eat what we eat. There's the biological factor that drives us, which is hunger. There's social settings. There's economical. Those who are college students know that we're not trying to spend a whole heap of money on food at all. And then there's the psychological, the stress eating that is associated sometimes actually being in college also. So some of us live to eat while others eat to live, and we're not going to get into that debate. What a concept that I want to introduce to you is how diets can impact the environment. So we're not talking about eating to live or just eating for nutrition, but we're introducing a concept where we call eating as it relates to thinking about our environment when we consider what we eat. So let's examine the lunch choices of these two boys. And at first glance, we realize that that Peter is a vegetarian because he is consuming mostly vegetarian meals, and Paul is not. And so, initially, you might say, oh, well, obviously Peter's diet may be more environmentally friendly than Paul's diet, but then you have to really look at it carefully. They're basically eating the same thing. Both of them are eating pizza, both of them are eating some form of potatoes, both of them are having some form of vegetables. So it's like, is it really, when we think of the environment, is Paul's diet actually superior to Peter's diet? So as I said, some of us may say Paul's diet is better because it's plant-based. Others may say no, both of them eat pizza. So these are some of the questions that we hope to answer by the end of this presentation. So first thing first, we want to decide what is a diet. And a diet is basically the selection of foods eaten by individuals made available by our food system. So I know most persons think that diet is simply something that you do when you want to lose weight, or something that will happen if you have a particular conditions like diabetes or kidney disease. But all of us are on a diet. The diet is simply whatever we eat on a daily basis. So when we introduce this concept of sustainable diets, we're looking at diets which have low environmental impact and also contribute to the food and nutrition security and healthy life for our future and present generations. So when we look at these things, we look at diets which promote health and well-being, they increase security, they're culturally appropriate, and they're eco-friendly. So a sustainable diet, it doesn't only mean that it's good for the environment, which means it has a lower carbon footprint. A sustainable diet is also something that is nutritious and something that's healthy. So what are some of the factors that impact our diets and are determining the sustainability of the diet? So the amount of herbicides or pesticides used, the packaging used in foods, the processing of foods. So the more processed the food, the more energy that is used. The more energy that is used from coal or electricity or oil increases CO2 emission, which we know have a drastic effect on climate change and greenhouse gases. And then we look at the type of food used. So we have whether or not it is meat or dairy being produced, and this consumes 4 to 40 times more energy. And even the more food is transported, so where is our food coming from? This has a greater impact, whether our food is coming from our backyard or if it's coming from all across the world. It's having a greater impact if we're importing it rather than if we're growing it locally. So we go back to our question, which one of the boys' lunch was more sustainable? And so we may say, well, obviously based on this example, because Peter's lunch was more plant-based, that it was more sustainable. However, we have to look at the component of his lunch. Was it pizza packaged? How was it baked potato done? Was it in a styrofoam container? All of these things. The water bottle, yeah, compared to Coke, but was it in a plastic bottle? Is it contributing to our landfill? So these are all the questions that we have to ask when we think about sustainability. So how can we make our diets more sustainable? Well, the answer is simple. Let's have policies that support more locally grown foods. Let's support more organic grown foods. Let's have policies that encourage persons to avoid highly processed foods, incentives to adopt plant-based diets. These are just a few things that we can do in order to make our diets more sustainable. So the question that I want to leave with you is, what legacy do you as a stakeholder, or what legacy do you as a policymaker want to leave? You can leave two hills. You can leave this one, or you can leave the next one. The choice is yours. So when we eat, or when we think about our policy, just not let's think about nutrition, but let's think about sustainability. Thank you for listening.